Hey guys, Grasshopper here with another Overwatch video. In this video, I'll be discussing the top 5 underrated heroes in competitive play. Quick disclaimer, this isn't as relevant if you play near the top of the ranked ladder, because those players use the best heroes for each map and enemy team comp, so this video is more focused on all ranks, diamond and below. Now let's jump right into it. Each of these 5 heroes are underrated because they can bring a lot of value to a team, but they're not used quite enough due to most people wanting to play the meta or not working together with their teammates. If you were to take any of these heroes and main them or one-trick them, you would definitely climb, but always be sure to flex when your team needs you to. First up, we have Lucio, the support hero with the only speed boost ability in the game. Lucio isn't seen as much use as he probably should due to the fact that he takes some skill to use correctly and can have very little impact if you don't play him right. Lucio is often called the Genji of supports because he has playmaking potential by himself with his wall riding and boop abilities. He works well with tanks because he can use the speed boost to move them into position quickly or chase down a group of enemies, which is pretty scary. Lately, the only time Lucio seems to be played is if he's being used with the GOATS comp, which is slowly dying off right now, because his speed boost is effective to move all of those tanks and healers around because they all need to stay clumped up and fighting together. That seems to be the only time Lucio is used, unless you're playing on a King of the Hill map because they have a lot of cliff edges for Lucio boops. Lucio combos really well with Reinhardt, as the speed aura will let Reinhardt move forward quickly to drop shield and do some damage with his hammer. Speed boost can also be used to help your team escape to safety when the enemy team starts using ults. Another key ability that defends against enemy ultimates is Lucio's own Sound Barrier, which gives decaying shields to teammates within line of sight. These shields can block big damage from Dragon Strike, Tactical Visor, Dragon Blade, or Riptire, or when your team is stuck in an enemy blizzard or grav. Lucio's healing isn't too bad either, as it counters poke damage pretty well, and he can save amp it up for when large amounts of damage start coming in. Did I mention this healing affects anyone nearby to Lucio in a decently sized radius? Sometimes Lucio will get gold healing just because he sticks around his teammates during a fight. Lucio might not be played enough due to players not knowing how to use this kit effectively. If you can wall ride pretty well, you should be able to run circles around the enemies while you move to heal your teammates or even try to boop an enemy off the map. The boop can be used defensively against any enemy that wants to fight in close range, like Reinhardt or Reaper. Lucio's projectile damage is hard to aim, but when you hit those shots on an enemy's head, they'll go down pretty fast. So Lucio's dueling ability isn't too shabby either. Overall, Lucio is underrated because it's hard to achieve his full power unless you practice a lot. And when you're only focused on healing everyone on your team, it can be kind of boring, but that's not the right way to play him anyway. I hope to see more of him in competitive, and I recommend everyone to learn him because he's a lot of fun to play. Next up, we'll look at Mei, and right away, I'll say the reason she probably isn't used a lot is because her damage numbers are pretty low if you're not hitting those right clicks. But don't flame a teammate if they pick Mei. She can actually be quite scary, especially in a 1v1, which she should always win. There's a reason everyone called her Satan back in the day. Mei can freeze enemies, even multiple ones, if they're grouped up close together, and once they're frozen, it's an easy target for the rest of the team to pile damage into that enemy. If you practice hitting icicle shots with Mei, you can do as much damage as a McCree, so don't knock her until you try her. Another useful ability for Mei is her wall, which can separate an enemy team, making it super easy to focus 1 or 2 enemies, and once you have a pick or 2, you've won the fight. This wall can be used defensively to block enemy ultimate damage, but be sure not to block off your teammates or they'll make their displeasure known quickly. Mei just might be the best stall hero, as she can wall herself into a corner on point to waste time, and then ice block herself when the wall is down or whenever she's low on health. This should allow teammates time to get back on point and help her out. Again, if she freezes a squishy hero, they're as good as dead, and her ultimate Blizzard is perfect at denying space to the enemies or catching their backline off guard. Mei is probably underrated because she requires a good amount of teamwork unless you're really good, and ally players can get mad at you if your wall gets in their way. If you want to pick up Mei, just make sure to practice those right clicks and communicate with your team on what you're doing, like when you're going to use that wall or even Blizzard. Moving on, the third underrated hero is Reaper. Reaper can actually be the carry hero at lower ranks, so I'm surprised many people don't play him. He also does very well when dueling tanks, so in theory he should be good against multi-tank comps or even a GOATS comp if a team is trying to run that still. If you can split up the enemy team and duel targets one-on-one, you'll definitely take them out as Reaper. And Reaper can keep himself up with his lifesteal ability, and his Wraith form gives him movement to escape a fight he's losing. The teleport ability isn't very good, but it can put you on high ground to drop down and pounce on enemies or use your ultimate. Reaper's ultimate is still very strong against uncoordinated teams, but unfortunately it can be countered hard because there's so much CC and stuns in the game, and even D.Va's defense matrix that will completely negate his ultimate. If you can earn kills effectively as Reaper and stay alive, you can carry games, but you'll need support to take on groups of enemies. If an enemy team tries to run Doomfist or Wrecking Ball, Reaper can do pretty well against them too, if you can hit your shots before they kill you. Overall, Reaper is underrated because his damage is close range, which doesn't work well in this meta, but can do big things against teams that don't group up. The fourth underrated hero is D.Va. Now you might be asking, D.Va? She's definitely not underrated. She's played all the time. Well, you'd be surprised how many players just want to run Reinhardt and Zarya or Orisa and Hog. D.Va is probably the best hero in Overwatch and can find a use in every game. The only time she's played in my games is when we run dive or if I'm playing her. D.Va is so powerful because she can block almost any damage from every hero, even ultimates. She does a lot of burst damage, so she can kill weak enemies, or she can even peel for her supports when they're being attacked. She's the enforcer of any team, but she's probably underrated because it's hard to play her correctly. There are so many times where all you're supposed to be doing is sitting on high ground, waiting for a target to dive, instead of fighting on the front line and taking damage. So a lot of players just want to keep fighting all the time, but you actually should just be waiting for the enemies to make a move. D.Va combos well with almost any team comp because her role is the enforcer. She just eats damage and spits it back out while taking care of her team. If you can play her smart by avoiding damage, helping your teammates stay alive, and chasing down the weak enemy getting away, you'll climb the ranked ladder very fast. The other clutch thing D.Va can do is eat ultimates with defense matrix. For example, when the enemy team has a Zarya, after 2 or 3 fights, she should have grab, so you want to save defense matrix until she launches it. This is kinda hard because you have to time it carefully, but you can bait it out by having your teammates play close together. If you eat a grab, that's a major win and your team will love you. What I'm trying to say is D.Va might be the best hero in Overwatch. There's so much you can do with her that I don't know why she isn't the only off-tank used at every rank. Please try out D.Va if you haven't, especially if you only play DPS and your team needs a second tank, because she does a lot of damage and has a lot of fun, so DPS will like her. Finally, our last underrated hero is Pharah. Before you start commenting on how she can't survive against all the hit scan in the game, especially without a mercy pocket, let me just say that you'll have to adapt and play her differently. Pharah is sort of like a sniper or flanker now. You need to fly fast and low or behind cover before popping out to kill the healers or DPS. If Pharah hits 2 direct rockets on a squishy, they will die, so she's still strong. Her ultimate Barrage is still one of the highest damage ultimates in the game, and surprising the enemies with it will wipe them away. Avoid the counters to Pharah until you can attack them up close, and you should do just fine up until High Diamond when the hit scan players stop missing their shots. Pharah can also be a good counter against multi-tank comps because they may only have a D.Va and an Ana or Zenyatta to put damage on her, while the whole time Pharah can fire rockets freely into their massive tank bodies. Picking a Pharah will almost guarantee the enemies have to swap to hit scan or they'll lose, and this can cause problems for enemy players that can't play hit scan well. It could basically break their team up so they start playing bad and then your team starts winning. Don't underestimate a Pharah, and please try her out when the enemies don't have counters for her. And that's all I have for this video. The meta in Overwatch can change pretty quickly as we just left the GOATS comp hell, and there will always be heroes that are used way less than others, but I wanted to point out these underrated heroes that can be useful a lot of the time. Do you agree or disagree with me, and what are the underrated heroes in your eyes? Let me know down in the comments. Also, before I forget, leave a like on this video and subscribe if you enjoyed it, because it really helps me out, and I'd also like to let you know that I stream pretty often on Twitch and here on YouTube, and it's always a good time. I'd appreciate a follow if you're interested, and I mean, just take a look at the quality content you're missing out on. Fucking idiots. I just did all that. That was super juicy, wasn't it? As always, I'm Grasshopper. Keep hopping.
Let's get it. Yeah.